Today we're going to be doing Unit 5 Quiz 2 review, so we're going to go over this to make sure you're ready for that quiz. So first of all, let's go over solving things using the zero product property. So the first thing we're going to do, when you already have it factored, is you're simply going to take each factor and set it equal to 0, like so. And then we're going to solve each factor. So for this first one, I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides, and then I get that x is equal to negative 5. For the second one, I'm going to start by adding 8 to both sides, so then I get 2x is equal to 8. Now that 2 is being multiplied by the x, so to get over to the other side, I divide by 2, and I get that x is equal to 4. So here are my two solutions for number 1, I'm sorry. So let's take a look at number 2. So for number 2, in order to solve this, the first thing we have to do is set up the x. So I'm multiplying 1 times 20. So that's going to be my product. I'm multiplying to 20 and adding to 9. So I need to ask myself, what multiplies to 20 and adds to 9? Well, that's 5 and 4. So I have x squared. Now instead of writing 9x, I want to write that as 5x plus 4x. Remember, that's the same as 9x. I'm just splitting it up so I can use grouping. Then I'm going to factor by grouping. So between x squared and 5x, I can take out an x. And then here, I'm left with x plus 5. Out of my second group, I can take out a 4, and then I'm left with x plus 5. So then I end up getting x plus 5 times x plus 4 when I complete my grouping. Now, I notice that my original quadratic was set equal to 0. So that means that x plus 5 needs to be set equal to 0, and x plus 4 is equal to 0. Whenever there's an equal sign, that means I need to put a final answer. So here I get that x is equal to negative 5, and here I get that x is equal to negative 4 when you solve each of those equations for x. Let's take a look at number 3. So we're going to go ahead and set up that x. We're going to take 3 times 4, which is going to be 12. So we're multiplying to 12 and adding to 13. So what multiplies to 12 and adds to 13? Well, that's going to be 12 and 1. So let's go ahead and let's do that. So instead of writing 13x, I'm going to split that up as 12x plus 1x, which again is still going to be 13x. So now I'm ready to factor by grouping. So I'm going to make my two groups. Between 3x squared and 12x, I can take out a 3 and an x. So I'm dividing each of these by 3x. And then I'm left with x plus 4. Now, out of my second group, I can't take out a greatest common factor. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write 1. And then I'm left with x plus 4. So then I notice that my leftovers are matching, so I write those out. And then in my second parenthesis, I put 3x plus 1. Now remember that this was equal to 0. So I need to take both of these factors and set them equal to 0. So to solve this first one, I need to subtract 4 from both sides, and I get that x is equal to negative 4. Then for this one, I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides, and I get 3x is equal to a negative 1. Divide both sides by 3. And I get that x is equal to a negative 1/3 when I divide both sides by 3. Now, let's take a look at number 4. So for number 4, we're going to use the quadratic formula. Okay, and we're actually going to do that on all of these. I'm going to give myself some more space here. Okay, so let's take a look at number 4. So, first of all, it's not set equal to 0. So in order for us to solve it using the quadratic formula, it needs to be set equal to 0. So I'm going to start by adding 25 to both sides. So then I get x squared plus 10x plus 25 is equal to 0. So now I'm ready to use the quadratic formula. So my a is going to be equal to 1, my b is equal to 10, and my c is equal to 25. So let's go ahead and put that into the quadratic formula. So I get opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all of that over 2 times a. So then I'm going to get negative 10 plus or minus the square root of 0 divided by 2. So, well, the square root of 0 is just 0, so this is actually going to become negative 10 divided by 2, which is just going to be negative 5. So since my radical was 0, I only end up having one solution on this one. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at number 5. So the a, remember, is always with the squared term, so that's going to be 2. The b is always with the x term, so that's 5. And the c is always the thing that's just a number, so that's going to be 7. So then I'm going to do negative 5 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, and then all of that is going to be over 2 times a. So then remember, what I like to do is simplify what's underneath the radical first. So doing 5 squared minus 4 times 2 times 7. And when I do that, I end up getting a negative 31 divided by 4. Well, remember, we can't have a negative underneath the radical. So that's going to be no solution for number 5. No solution. So let's go ahead and let's take a look now at number 6. So for number 6, my a, excuse me, my a is going to be 2, my b is going to be 5, and my c is going to be negative 1. So now I'm going to do opposite of b, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c. Now all of that's going to be over 2 times a. So now the first thing I'm going to do is type out what's underneath the radical without actually putting the radical in. So I get 5 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 1, and that's going to be 33 divided by 4. So now I want to split it into my plus and minus version. So I have negative 5 plus the square root of 33. I'm going to type that into my calculator, and then I'm going to hit enter. Once I do that, I divide it by a negative 4. No, a positive 4. I'm sorry. And so that's going to give me a negative 1.9. Okay? Then I'm going to do negative 5 minus the square root of 33, hit enter, and then I'm going to divide that by 4. And I get 2.69. And I believe that this one should be negative and this one should be positive. I have it flipped around on my answer key. So that's your final answer for number 6. So taking a look at number 7, remember rules of exponents. Whenever you take a power of a power, you need to distribute and multiply. Remember that coefficients also have a power of 1. So 3 to the 1 times 2 is 2. X to the 4 times 2 is 6. And y to the 2 times 2 is going to give, or 1 times 2 is 2. Now the last thing I need to do is square 3. Remember that 3 squared is not the same as 3 times 2. 3 squared is actually 3 times 3, which is 9. And then I get x to the 6th and y squared. So that's my final answer for number 7. Taking a look at number 8, the first thing I want to do is reduce 16 and 10. So what divides 16 and 10? Well, that's going to be 2. So when I divide them both by 2, I get 8 over 5. So here I have x to the 5th divided by x to the 6th. Well, when you divide out those exponents, you end up getting x to the 1st, because you subtract the exponents. Now I notice that the larger amount of x's is on the bottom, so x to the 1st is going to go on the bottom. And then I have y squared divided by y to the 1st, and that's just going to give me y. So this right here is my final answer for number 8. And that concludes your review video, so you can go ahead and take the quiz once you're ready. Thanks for listening.